Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Med School Minutes podcast, where we discuss what it takes to attend and successfully complete a medical program. This show is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. Here is your host, Kaushik Guha.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Med School Minutes. Today, we have a remarkable young lady, Miss Chandler Babb, who is a student at St. James School of Medicine, but she is not an ordinary student. She is an MD3 student, but she has gone through movement from the United States to the island. She has obviously undergone all the challenges and changes that every one of our students goes through. But to top it all off, she has actually become the world champion in powerlifting, and she's competed while she was going to school in St. Vincent. Can't wait to have her on screen and hear more about her experience and how she managed to do this and this near impossible task of becoming the number one athlete in the world in her chosen profession. Without further ado, let's welcome Miss Chandler Babb. Why don't you start by giving us a brief introduction to who you are, what your hobbies are, and what are you doing?
So I'm Chandler Babb. I'm from Southfield, Michigan, city right outside of Detroit. I graduated from Grand Valley State University with two majors, one in clinical exercise science, my other one is in Spanish. I worked for a few years as a physical therapy tech, and then shortly after the pandemic happened, I decided to go back. Well, I always wanted to go back to school, but that was kind of my push to go back. So I started applying to medical schools, and now I'm my third semester at St. James.
Awesome. And what are your hobbies?
Oh, well, yes, my hobby is powerlifting. I like to draw, but I really don't have much time for that between studying and powerlifting. So mainly just powerlifting, and that's it really for now. That's all I have time for now.
Well, I mean, I think that that's a really big hobby because unlike, I have a lot of hobbies. I definitely haven't been able to take any of my hobbies to the level that you have. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your successes in powerlifting?
Well, I started powerlifting. I met my coach in 2017, but I didn't compete till September 2018. And since then, I don't believe I've lost a meet. At least I haven't came in anything but first in my weight class. I competed back and forth between different federations, and but last year I competed in one of the bigger powerlifting federations in the U.S., which is called the USAPL, and they were a part of the International Federation of Powerlifting, IPF. But there was some drama between the two entities, and USAPL ended up getting suspended and eventually kicked out of the International Federation. So I had the opportunity to join the Federation for USVI, and that way I can go to the International Powerlifting Federation competition last year, which was in Sweden. And so that's why I have on a USVI shirt right now, because I decided to still live with them. I was very grateful for the opportunity they gave me. And so, I went to Worlds last year in Sweden, and I was able to go to USVI's Nationals in February, and that allowed me to qualify for this past Worlds, which was in right outside Johannesburg, South Africa. And
right. Sun City, right?
Yeah, Sun City, South Africa.
Right. And how did you perform there?
I got first in my weight class. It was.
I mean, you're so modest. Oh yeah, I went there, but by the way, I won it as well. So you are the world champion in powerlifting in your weight class.
Yes, in my weight class. My weight class is 69 kilograms, and because powerlifting is international, we go by the metric system, not pounds. With the U.S. only country that does that, so we go by kilograms. So 69 kilograms is around 152 pounds.
Okay, that's really, really impressive. And you achieved all this while going to school full time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. When I went to Worlds last year, that was October 1st, and I was in my first semester of medical school. We were, well, at least I was online. Some of us were still online at the time, and that was a bit easier to manage, studying online and preparing for Worlds. But this time, I'm on the island completely, and being in school full time was a bit more difficult. But I managed to
Right.
get it done.
So, just generally speaking, it seems like you got a start to powerlifting no more than 5 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I've been lifting since I was a kid because my parents have always had gym equipment in the home, and so
Okay.
I don't know, probably 8 or 9 when I started like lifting weights, not heavy weights, but like machines, and we had a total gym and an ab lounge and stuff. So I would do all that
Okay.
stuff in our basement, and I grew up doing that. So it's not like I was
Okay.
completely new to lifting when I started powerlifting. I kind of had a foundation in lifting, and when in college, yeah, I would work out. I would lift about 6 days out of the week. So I kind
Okay.
of had a good foundation before powerlifting, but yeah, I haven't been competing that long.
So, so give us an overview of
Mhm.
the weightlifting categories. Like, what made you go to powerlifting and not necessarily within powerlifting? I understand that there are different lift categories as
Mhm.
well as there's bench press and things like that. What drove you to go into the specific category that you're in right now? I believe you're in the deadlift. Is that right?
Oh,
You're
well,
the
for what I do is called full power, which means you do all the big three lifts, which is squat, bench, and deadlift. But
okay.
there are different categories where you could do deadlift only or bench only or deadlift and bench only.
Okay.
But I do full power, so I do squat, bench, and deadlift. And when I met my coach, wasn't squatting very heavy, wasn't deadlifting very heavy, but he gave me some pointers while I was in the gym, and I went from I think I was deadlifting 95 pounds for like 12 to 15 reps. I would always do stuff for like 12 to 15 reps back then. But I ended up working up my way to 225 pounds, which is 2 plates on each side of the barbell. And I would do that for 5 reps, and I was just amazed that I could lift that much. Like I would have never thought I could lift that much. So after working for with him for a bit, I was like, wow, I already thought I was really strong, but I was like, now I'm really strong. So I just kept up with it, and I ended up having success while competing. So I stuck to it.
Wow, that's crazy. I have to make sure my wife doesn't hear this because I don't as much as want to lift the shopping bags, and here you're talking about 225 pounds. That's crazy. And is so to tell us a little bit more about the sport.
Mhm.
If I hypothetically wanted to get into, and hypothetically only, I think beyond hypotheticals, I do not
Okay.
want to enter this particular sport because it's just a lot of work and a lot of
Mhm.
tenacity, just like any sport. But how do if I were to wanted to get into powerlifting, what would I need to do?
Well, there are plenty of federations in the U.S. I'm not sure about Canada, but the USAPL, even though they're not a part of the IPF anymore, they're still a reputable federation. You also have the USPA, which I competed with them as well, and I liked their meets too. I think there's a WRPF, but that's the non-tested lifting, so I'm not sure you're going to go in there because there are people lifting crazy amount of weight. Um, but you could just look up those different federations or other ones, and you could sign up for a local meet. Anybody could compete in powerlifting. It's not just world class lifters. They have all these federations, so they may have big national meets that could get you to the international ones. They also have a lot of local meets as well.
So, what drives you to be this world class power lifter? What's the driving force?
Uh, Really, just to see how strong I can get, as strong as possible. Lifting is just something I love. It is just a part of me. So it a lot of times I don't really feel motivated. It's just something that's a part of my day. It's what I do. As far as
Okay.
competing, I just have this goal in my mind to be the best, and so. I try to discipline myself to do everything I can to achieve that.
Okay. And when you found, so I believe you train at a gym in St. Vincent.
Oh yes.
Was this, what was your reaction when you saw the gyms in St. Vincent?
Well, I had looked it up before going because I knew I needed somewhere to train. But
Okay.
it's not like I don't have the same equipment. In powerlifting, you have specific weights called calibrated plates. Um, and that means pretty much means whatever the weight says it is, that's what it is.
Right.
Whereas in the gym, these like we call it probably called commercial plates because these places you find it in commercial gym. It may say it's 45 pounds, but it may actually be like 42, 43 pounds when you weigh it.
See, that's the thing. That's exactly why I don't go to the gym. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is like, what is this?
So
This is
yeah,
like lying to us.
yeah.
That's why I don't go to the gym.
You can't trust the numbers. But so I knew before coming down here that it was just commercial gym plates. We also in powerlifting and competitions we have a power bar, and it's a specific power bar that has a specific psi and it can hold a certain amount of weight. Whereas
Right.
regular bars you see in the gym, it could probably hold that weight, but it when you're lifting really heavy, the bar may bend a bit. For power bars,
Okay.
they don't typically bend, but you don't really have to worry about that unless you're deadlifting a heavy amount of weight. Um,
Okay.
with power bars, they also have more aggressive knurling. If you're familiar with barbells, the knurling is like the ridges on each end of the bar, and when you're squatting, it keeps the bar from slipping down your back. For deadlifting, helps keep it makes it easier to hold on to the bar when you're lifting. Bench, it doesn't really matter, but you don't want uh, a smooth bar or a bar that like moves a lot. Like the Olympic weightlifting bars, they rotate. Well, power bars don't do that. Um, but I knew I wouldn't have the calibrated plates for the power bars here. I wouldn't have as much machines to work with here. So I was prepared for that, and I was like, I'll do whatever it says. I'll work with what I have. Because when I first started powerlifting, I lifted in a commercial gym anyway. So it's nice to have the power bars and the calibrated plates and all the different machines. But it like anything in life, if you want something enough, you'll find a way to get it done. So I just said, whatever. This is what I have, and this is what I work with. So
Right. And does St. Vincent actually have an established weightlifting, powerlifting community that you could kind of fall back on for advice, support, things like that?
no, not that I know of at least. I know they don't
Okay.
have a team in the IPF, but that could change in a few years. There are certain Caribbean countries where I think they're getting towards that. So Jamaica, they were guest lifters at Powerlifting America's Nationals back in April. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think they're in the IPF. I'm not sure, but like they're
Okay.
building up their federation. So at the moment, I don't believe I know St. Vincent doesn't have a team with the IPF, but who knows if that will change in a few years.
Right. So you did everything on your own. So when you decided to go to St. Vincent, you looked up all the gyms. You looked up which one will be the most suitable gym. You went there and you just signed up. It's not like, any officials from U.S. powerlifting or U.S. Virgin Island, the national team helped you with any. You did everything end to end on your own. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I looked up everything beforehand. I looked up how long it would take for me to get from school to the gym. um,
Okay.
public transport for me. Like I studied abroad in Spain many years
Mhm.
ago, and being in another country, the first thing you need to do is know how to get around, right? So
Right.
I would, on Google Maps researching, all right, how long is it going to take me to get from school to the gym and back? Like, what is their mode of transportation and all that? So yeah, I looked up the gyms myself and tried to decipher what's the best way to get there, get back, and get home. So yeah, I was well versed in that and prepared for that prior to
Yeah.
coming to St. Vincent.
So, what about your coaching? How did that happen when you were in St. Vincent?
Oh, while I'm in St. Vincent, well, we just communicate via WhatsApp and Instagram. So, um, not too different from how things were when I was in Michigan because it's not like I trained with him. I was with like in person with him every time I lifted. It was like that for when I first met him, like 2 years. The first 2 years I was training with him because I was working in a restaurant at the time, and so my schedule was a bit more flexible, and I could just go to. He has his own home gym, so I just could go to his home and lift with him, and that was pretty good for me because I guess I became more established lifter and better technique and whatnot, being able to train with him in person. But the last few years, I've just been in the gym by myself. He'll send me a program of what numbers I should hit in the gym for squat, bench, or deadlift, and the different accessory lists. Accessories means like which machines or dumbbells we should use and which exercises. So come down here to
Okay.
St. Vincent, it wasn't that different, but I make sure that I send him videos of the lifts and let him know how I'm feeling and how I'm adjusting to everything down here. So as long as we kept up with communication, everything's been fine.
Okay. So just to put things in perspective, you chose to go to St. Vincent. You went to St. Vincent. You did your due diligence and highlighted which gyms would be best suited for you. You chose a gym. You had remote training. And despite all of these changes and flux, so to speak, you ended up becoming the world championship in powerlifting in your weight category. Now, this is really interesting because a lot of our students come and complain that, oh, I can't adjust to St. Vincent because they don't have big buses. And you, on the other hand, managed to go to St. Vincent and not only against all odds, have essentially won the most prestigious and coveted title of weightlifting while studying in St. Vincent. This is such a remarkable story. Um, quick question, Chandler. How did going to medical school, did it help or did it hurt your aspirations with powerlifting?
It's not so much that I went to medical school is where I went to medical school because, like I said, I was going to specifically a powerlifting gym in Michigan,
Yeah,
whereas here it's more so of a commercial gym, not as much, not the same equipment, not as much equipment as I was used to.
right.
So it's more so where I went, but um, I just told myself, look, powerlifting doesn't pay bills, and I need a real career. So
Okay.
deal with it. Just deal with it and do what you can.
That's amazing. And what about your studying? So how, give us a breakdown of your day-to-day routine with studying, practicing, training, everything.
Oh
So
yes.
tell us when you wake up in the morning. What time do you get up? How does your average day break down?
I usually wake up at 7. Class starts at 8. I only live about 10 minutes, like a 10-minute walk
Mhm.
from the school. So classes start at 8, and usually we go from 8 to 3, or in some days 8 to 5. It depends on the day. I think right now Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. No, sorry, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday we get out at 5, but Tuesday and Friday it's 8 to 3, and so I would Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday I would work out, and so right at 3 o'clock I'd pretty much run out the building to try to get on the quickest van to the gym, and I'd be
Okay.
at the gym from probably about I get there around 3:30. Depends on how quick I can get. They call dollar vans here. So I get to the gym about 3:30, and I'm there till maybe 6:30, and then I get home um, close to 7 or a little after 7, and I walk. St. Vincent, like most of the Caribbean, is very mountainous, so there's plenty of hills you have to walk up. So I walk up. There's huge hills. 10 minutes. It's a hard 10 minutes though. um, and then eat, shower, and study. And so after that, I think by 8:30, I'm studying.
Okay. And how
Yeah.
long do you study in a day?
Oh, in a day, I usually I study for an hour, maybe take 30 minutes off, study another hour, take 30 minutes off to let my brain breathe and relax a
Right,
bit.
right, right.
So, and I usually go to sleep at 1:30.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's not a lot of sleep for a professional international level athlete, though.
No,
You're
it
looking at
is.
like a little over 5 hours.
Yeah, usually 5.5 hours. Yeah, it's not, but I mean that's what it
But
is.
but but I mean, to me, what is telling is that despite all the adversities you faced, you still managed to be the number one person in your sport, which is incredibly impressive. As I said, people have complained about St. Vincent because, oh, I can't adjust to St. Vincent because they don't have big buses or the roads aren't as big as USA. But
Right, right.
you have just shown us a completely different side where if you put your mind to it, you can be a world class athlete no matter what the circumstances are you're in. I mean, as you said yourself, I mean, you went from a specialized international level gym to a commercial gym,
Right.
which didn't have the weights that you had. You went through. You're on a different island in a different country where their supply chain works differently, and you've made those adjustments. Not just that, you're in a very very demanding curriculum of medicine, which is not, and I can vouch for that this is definitely not an easy program to get through. But you're not just doing fine, you're doing great, you're thriving, and you won the World Series. I mean, sorry, the World Championship.
Mhm.
That is such a huge deal. And I mean, I can't tell you how proud we are of you here at St. James, because you are essentially a guiding light to all of our students, uh, for
Thank you.
discipline,
Mhm.
for hard work, and for, putting your mind on to something and getting it done. I think our students will definitely benefit a lot from hearing you and hearing this podcast that we've recorded. But do you have any parting words for our students who might find it difficult to live in a different country? Because you've obviously uh, risen above all the odds. And what would your advice to them be? Say, coming to St. Vincent, adjusting to non US life, what would your advice be to them?
Um, well, for me, it may be a bit unfair because I had practiced having studied in Spain, and I was there for a semester. And that was much more difficult because, well, it's a language barrier, and I grew up learning Spanish in school and whatnot, and listening to music, watching movies in Spanish. But it's very difficult to actually be there and speak to people. And it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know Spanish
Hmm.
as well as I thought I did. But
Okay.
I have practiced living in another country before, and half my family is from Trinidad and Tobago, and I've been to Trinidad before, so adjusting to island life may have not been as difficult for me as for other people. But what I would say to people is, do like I did when it came to researching the gyms and where to go. Research the country, watch stuff, watch documentaries about the history and about people in day to day life. So you have an idea and understanding of how things work here, so you could be mentally prepared for when you come down to the island. And like I
Right.
said, a big thing for me was public transportation, how to get to and from anywhere. Look up how that works as well. That would be it would get rid of some stress for you, because if you don't know that and you're expecting, like you said, a bus system or subway system, no, there is no subway here. The big
Yeah.
buses, no, no, they're dollar vans, like caravans and whatnot. Um, so research, those things, public transportation, and just day to day life. So you're mentally prepared for things. One thing I appreciate from the school is having us speak to students who were formerly on the island. Um,
Okay.
like having the info sessions before we came down, I think that's very helpful. And if a student is worried or just nervous about this huge change that they're about to embark on, uh, at least for us, we were given those doctors' emails. So if you're really worried, reach out to them and just pick their brain on certain things that you may be worried about.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's all about setting your expectations, right? And that's what it seems like even you're saying, that you knew well in advance what you were getting into, so you could
Yes.
adjust accordingly. Whereas I think that's genuinely true for a lot of the students who aren't necessarily adjusting well, is that they're expecting, you know,
Right. Yeah.
something completely off from what the island currently is. And it also depends on a lot of the students who are coming haven't been exposed to life outside of the United, just generally speaking across the board. I think
Yeah.
people very with similar backgrounds to yours, in the sense that who've had some exposure internationally, tend to do a lot better than people who've, say, never gotten out of their home state.
Right.
So
Yeah.
but all this is all really good advice. But this is the end of our time. Thank you so much, Chandler, for your time. We really
Thank you for having
appreciate it. We really appreciate the insight. And for me, the biggest takeaway was the uh, you have not characterized this as a struggle, but the difficulty, but the
me.
challenges that you went through, because of your perspective and because of your positive attitude. As you said, these weren't, I was expecting it. I chose to come here and I just adjusted.
Mhm.
What you call
Right. Yeah.
adjustments, in my opinion, were actually challenges that you overcame with a smile and optimism. And I think that that's telling. And not just that, your end goal, which is to become a world champion powerlifter, that's definitely come about. And then now you're in phase 2, which is becoming a doctor, which I have no doubt whatsoever that you will succeed with flying colors.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
all right. Thank you so much, Chandler Babb, for spending time with us and telling us about your routine. And we'd really appreciate it. I think there's so many takeaways for our students there. Primarily your positive attitude, no matter what challenges you faced, you literally brushed it off and used that as a stepping stone for your success. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in to our podcast. Please look us up in Apple, Spotify, as well as YouTube, and give us a follow. We keep talking to various students and their remarkable feats and their experiences on the islands. And Chandler Babb is obviously one of the more remarkable ones. But again, please stay tuned for our next episode. And until then, remember, there is no shortcut to becoming an MD.
Thank you so much for tuning into our show. We hope you enjoyed another episode of Med School Minutes. If you like our content, please follow us and receive notification when a new show is posted. This podcast is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. For a video version of this podcast, please check us out on sjsm.org/video.